أما اليوم فإن إيران بوفائها بذلك الوعد الصادق وبكسرها الصورة الوهمية لعدم قابلية أمريكا والكيان الصهيوني الحزيمة قد حققت الحلم الذي راود المسلمين طويلا. ومن هنا فإن منطق العقلانية السياسة ذاته يقتضي أن نسعى في ظل النظام الذي يتشكل في المنطقة إلى إقامة اتحاد أمني شامل. إن علينا أن نتحد معا من أجل انضمان أمننا، وإن نمضي إلى ميثاق للأمن الجماعي يقوم على الإسلام والقرآن مرجعا ومحورا وأساسا راسخا. فكيف صار التحالف بين دول مسلمة ودولة مستكبرة كافرة أيسر من اتحاد المسلمين فيما بينهم؟ إن البعد عن القرآن الكريم وتعاليمه هو أصل المصائب التي حلت بالعالم الإسلامي اليوم. وإن الجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية تعلن استعدادها على إقامة اتحاد أمني عسكري في المنطقة من دون حضور الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية والكيان الصهيوني الغاصب. ولا ننسى قول الله تعالى في محكم كتابه أنه قال: ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Shalom. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to the only true God of heaven and earth, the God of the Israelites, whose name is Yahweh, and to his only begotten Son, the Messiah, the leader of Israel, whose name is Yahweh Shai. Double honors to my elders and teachers in the great millstone, and honors to all the prophets and teachers that carry the spirit of faith and truth as well. My name is Zechariah. Hear my speech concerning the truth that is the word of the living God. Iran have officially declared it has broken the false image of American invincibility. And this is prophetic. What Iran is doing to America, to the American image, is prophetic. The Lord, by way of Iran, is humiliating this place. In fact, this is Job chapter 12, verse 21. So this is the Lord's, doings. The Lord is purposefully humiliating the proud, that is America, and the rulers of America, who is Edomites. A people, a nation of people whom the Lord hate. This is Job chapter 12, verse 21. He poureth contempt upon princes. That word contempt is synonymous with the word disgrace. So the Lord is disgracing the princes of Edom, particularly the princes, of Edom that rule America. By the weak at that, the Lord is using the weak, those who are assumed to be the weak, to humiliate the strong and the proud. And this is a result of the Lord's judgment, as he did with the children of Israel. The Lord not only punished us by letting another nation dominate us and overthrow us, but he also humiliated us. Gave opportunity to the nations to rejoice and laugh at us. The Lord is very big on humiliating his enemies, on humiliating the proud. And this is exactly what he's doing to America. And he's doing it in a measure. We ain't see it fully. We ain't see the Lord's judgments fully yet. We ain't seen nothing yet. We're seeing it to a degree. The Lord's pouring disgrace upon America. Since he poureth contempt upon princes, and weakeneth the strength of the mighty. Yeah. America's, spending millions and millions and millions of dollars. Billions, not billions, billions. And taking economic, hits, trying to fight this war. But here it is, your enemy is still standing with boldness. It is written in the book of Joel, chapter 3, that the weak shall say, I am strong. So there's a spirit of boldness upon the oppositions of America. So the Lord is humiliating this place. In fact, to add more upon that, let's go to the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. Now Edom, if you're new, Edom is a nation, a family of people whom the Lord hate. They play, I ain't gonna say play, but they have a very important role, big role in the Lord's will, in the Lord's grand purposes. And you could say that their role is to ultimately, manifest the Lord's wrath and might by way of judgment. So the Lord, that's really what Edom is. That's what his role is. Ultimately, when you gain understanding of the scriptures, the Lord just is going to use them to demonstrate his wrath. To demonstrate his severity, his power. Just as he did with Pharaoh of Egypt. The Lord raised up Pharaoh just to throw him down, that his name may be declared upon earth. Now, the Edomites, they are what the world will call the Caucasians, who currently rule the world by way of America and Western power. And the current state of Israel. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. Now, when you go into the Bible, there's full of metaphors and symbolisms. Now, the cup is ultimately representing the portion of judgment. A portion of judgment, ultimately. Now, the children of Israel, who are the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Indians today, who have suffered by the hand of God, by way of slavery, by way of the atrocities done by Edom, by being spoiled by Edom and the other nations, by being conquered by Edom and the other nations. The atrocities done to the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Indians. That was our portion of the Lord's wrath, of the Lord's judgment. But that portion of judgment will ultimately be turned onto Edom, a measure of the Lord's wrath, ultimately. And he's going to have to drink it. It says, the cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. Yeah, the Lord's going to humiliate this place. Clothing on an individual level is what covers us. It's part of our identity. In ancient times, clothing, was a symbol of one's authority and identity and reputation. Or status, shall I say, a symbol of status. So the Lord is basically, going to humiliate this place. That reputation, that status that America have will ultimately fail and be withdrawn. So in the sight of the nations, especially in a world of, media, this place is being humiliated because the whole world is watching it. They're seeing the Trump administration, making these foolish decisions, moving in a foolish and stupid manner, speaking as if they won the war when your enemy is still standing. Speaking as if they have the utmost upper hand in war when your enemies is still standing. Strong at that. Speaking as if they had an overwhelming victory in a war against Iran, when the war is not won yet. So the Lord is humiliating America, humiliating the leadership of America. And this is all prophetic, men. So the Lord is, exposing this place, to be penetrable. This is Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 16. Thy terribleness have deceived thee. Yeah, the conflicts and the terror and the trouble that you're causing will be to your own demise. And this is what we're witnessing slowly but surely. We're witnessing that. And the pride of thine heart. Yeah, the pride, you're fooling yourself with your own ego, with your own pride and your self-image that you have in your own heart. And a form of pride is, ultimately manifested by one's actions. not just one's thoughts and opinions, but one's actions. You know, the scriptures tell you that, you know, he keep not at home, you know, looking for trouble. That's a form of pride, looking for trouble. You know, there's no consideration that this can ultimately backfire on you. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 33, it tell you that, thy breath, you know, is a flame. You know, I'm loosely paraphrasing. In fact, let's read that real quick. Let's see if I can find that. Isaiah chapter 33. Isaiah chapter 33, verse 11. You shall conceive chaff, and you shall bring forth stubble. Now, chaff and stubble is material for fire, basically wood. You know, and different materials for burning and fire. It says, your breath as fire shall devour you. So your own decisions, your own pride, your own actions, your own spirit is going to consume you. You know, your own terribleness, you know, your own chaos is going to consume you. You know? And ultimately, that fire that's going to, in the end, consume this place is that nuclear destruction, ultimately. You know, but that's basically, in other words, America is bringing the material or for their own destruction, ultimately. You know, they're making a recipe for their own demise. Going back to Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 16. Thy terribleness have deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart. Yeah, you should have kept your ass at home. It says, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Yeah, when you go, in fact, let me continue reading. It says, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill. Yeah, the height meaning what? The very summit, the very top point. And that's the status and position that America have held for a while. You know, from its youth up. You know, and when you think about America, you know, speaking, in symbolic, terms, America is like, that plant that grow up fast, but that dies quick. You know, its growth is fast, but it's death is fast as well. You know? You know? So America grew up in power very, very early. You know? But it's gonna come quick. It's gonna come fast. It's near. You know. You know, America is like, a child that dies before its mother. Before its mother dies. You know. Which Europe, you think about Europe, You know, is like the mother of America, you know, particularly Britain, you know. But when it comes to America, this place is going to be completely annihilated, you know, by way of nuclear destruction. You know, now the nations and other kingdoms, they're going to be destroyed, but America is going to be its end in the sight of the nations. It says, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord. So the Lord is declaring that he's going to be the one that's going to bring this place down. He's the one that's going to bring this place down. He's going to create its fall. You know, and he's going to do it by way of World War III. You know, the Iranians, they're going to ultimately join together with the dragons of Arabia. And this is prophecy. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 28. It says, behold, in horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east. And, you know, horrible things is about to happen in these last days, you know, in the Middle East. It says, with the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots. So these Arab nations, it says, and a multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth. They, it says, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmenians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. Now the Carmenians, you know, is referring to the Iranians, the Irans. You know, and when you think about a wild boar, it's something untamable. And this is that spirit that we're seeing on Iran now. That bold, untamable spirit. There's no backing down. You know, there's no, giving up. You know, they're staying strong in their position, basically. And with great power shall they come and join battle with them. So there's going to be a joining together with Iran and other Arab nations in the region. You know, and ultimately Russia and China will be, you know, the nuclear umbrella, you know, of, you know, that side ultimately. And this is prophecy as well in the book of Ezekiel chapter 2, I think chapter 38, I think. You know, Russia will ultimately be a guard onto Persia and these other nations against America and Israel. You know, and ultimately America and Israel, their fate, you know, is tied. You know, they will meet their end ultimately. It says, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. The land of the Assyrians is talking about America. You know, ultimately, the American forces will be decimated, you know, destroyed in World War III, in war with Iran. Ultimately, when it grows, you know, a lot of American men will die, and ultimately, America, you know, which this is speculated, America, it will come to a point where they will have to drive, you know, illegals and immigrants, you know, for war, you know, send them off to war, you know, because the Lord is going, you know, drastically decrease the number of the living upon earth, you know. but also of American, men, due to the war. So they're going to be decimated in World War III. And ultimately the nations who do have nuclear missiles, such as Russia and NATO, will ultimately have a part in destroying America, the land of America. Not just the military, but the land of America by way of nuclear missiles. And this is all, prophecy, And this is the Lord's judgment. And let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, yet in dust, symbolizing confusion and humiliation. So the Lord is about to humble this place by way of, the enemies and the opposing side of America. By way of war and violence. The enemies of America will gain the upper hand. Troops dying, American forces being completely liquidated. The houses of America and in the cities of America, there's going to be a crying in the streets of America, a crying in the streets of the homes of America because of the dead of their family members, the death of their family members in these wars. It says, sit on the ground. So the Lord's going to humble this place. It says, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. And yeah, you think about a woman, tender and delicate, that's a woman who is pampered and have not been touched. Someone who have been well kept in life. Well, that is going to be changed for America. You American people, the life as you know is going to change. The American military is going to be humiliated. The land of America is going to be destroyed, ultimately. Which that's the climax of World War III, America being destroyed by nuclear war, or nuclear annihilation, I meant to say. That's going to be the climatic point of World War III. From there, I want to go to the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 5, verse 42. And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring. Like as there is no slackness of the last, even so there is no swiftness of the first. Yeah, and this is talking about God's judgment. It's like a ring, ultimately signifying something inevitable and steadfast. So when it comes to these prophecies, these things will be fulfilled at its appointed time without failure. Ultimately, the prophecies concerning the doom and the destruction of America. These things will come without failure. It's inevitable. It's a sure word of prophecy. It will come right on time. Its destruction, its judgment is going to come right on time. So the very times that we're living in, this very moment, it's all arranged from the beginning. You know, see, our God, whose name is Yahweh, who is the true God of heaven and earth, and who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's not a God that is subject to the course of time like we are. When it comes to the future, it's all known and arranged by him. His judgment can pass all peoples, all nations and times, and everyone is subject to it. Before the earth was, this time and existence was already known and determined in his mind. You know? So I'm going to close off on that. Lord willing, this lesson's edifying. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahah, Wadash, Shalom.